And welcome in. It's college football season here in the upstate of South Carolina. It's CSN live at Lakeside Lodge, and we're going to be on for at least the next hour here. Mark Sturgis, Joe Bostic, and we're live on location at Lakeside Lodge in Clemson, Joe. And what a great place to, as we're going to be doing this every night before a football game for the rest of the year. And Lakeside Lodge is literally Clemson's only resort experience.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful place here. Every time I come by, I see something new, as I get here. But boy, it's you can literally come here for a week and never leave this site. The food, the drinks, or whatever else you want to partake in, you can stay here, never get in your car. It really avails itself for everything that a person would need.
Absolutely, and you can find out all the information about this great facility online at lakesidelodgeclemson.com right here, 13,500 Clemson Boulevard. But Joe, I think you and I talked about this earlier. We're here to celebrate the beginning of the college football season. Clemson at Wake Forest at 7:30 tomorrow night on ABC. But I don't think we can begin to look ahead at the 2020 college football season unless we stop for a moment and take a look back at what happened 19 years ago today.
Yeah, it was my son Mark. We were riding around in the car today, and he had some tapes of some of the people and some of the first responders and the tapes that they had, and some people on some of those airplanes calling their loved ones, and it really touched my heart. It was a very somber moment listening to that, and hopefully as a nation we cannot, we lost almost 4,000 people, and I'll never forget driving to work that day and listening to the radio, and one of the towers had been hit, and thinking it's an airplane malfunctioned or what happened. Then all of a sudden I was in Greensboro and I was passing over Friendly Avenue, and this reporter said, well, the second tower just got hit, and I knew then this is terrorism, and what a major blow it was to our country. But we fought through that, but those people can never be forgotten about.
Yeah, and again, all our first responders and everybody, thank you for what they do and what they give. But Joe, it's the season opener before the Clemson-Wake Forest game tomorrow night. Now, you're the one that spent the time here in a Clemson football uniform. You spent 11 years with the Cardinals organization, 9 in St. Louis, 2 in Phoenix. Is it the same feeling year in, year out, the night before season opener, just simply in the fact there is always going to be some unknown to it?
Oh, yeah. The most nervous I ever got were those games, that first game of the season. And, it's almost like you're questioning yourself, can I still do this? What's going to happen? A lot of times you would play against a team that had a new coach. You didn't know exactly what they were going to do. You may be able to see film of maybe a place they had been the year before. So there's a lot of things that go into that first game for some reason. But after that first hit, hey, it's back to playing football. And, Tiger Nation, how many times have you doubted that there was going to be a season? I think, we're going to have football tomorrow night. And we've gone this whole summer just thinking, man, are we even going to have football? Is it even going to avail itself to us? So, I feel very fortunate and very thankful that the ACC and some of the other conferences in college football have taken those steps to allow us to have football. And I think we can make it safe. And I really look forward to this season. But it's been a roller coaster ride getting here.
It absolutely has. And listen, what to expect tomorrow. I think Clemson's the better football team. Obviously, they're the top-ranked team in the country, but not only is it a year of unknown and getting into the season opener, there's no fans in the stands. There's no radio crew there. There's 20 people in the press box. I think this actually plays into Clemson's advantage in the fact that they're going to have to agree with Wake Forest and Clemson coaching staffs how much noise they're going to pipe in during the game itself. And I just think back to 2 years ago during that 66-3 beatdown at Wake Forest, Dave Clawson was complaining about the Clemson pep band being too loud in the second quarter. So tomorrow, put the blinders on. That's why you have them at the Kentucky Derby last week. You aren't focused on what's going on around you. You're looking ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking of like a Daboism, BYOM. You got to bring your own motivation. And, it's going to be a different situation. I think the teams that have got the great culture, which Clemson does, is going to be able to, look at this. And the competition is not, if you're a really good team like Clemson is, the competition is not so much against Wake Forest. The competition is the guy you see in the mirror. Mm-hmm. And that's the guy that you've got to go out this first game, play the best you can, look at every opportunity, look at those films, and not so much, hey, we beat Wake Forest, or I played good against Wake Forest, or I didn't, but look at yourself and say, hey, how can I get better? And that's when you come up with national championship teams, is when you have people who look at themselves from game to game, not so much worried about what you did against that one particular individual, but also just looking at how I can make me a better player.
And there's your Daboism right there. The biggest opponent we face is ourselves every week. And, again, they took 7 buses to the airport due to social distancing, then get on an airplane. And, for people that don't know tonight, the Clemson football team is being served by the highest paid server staff, wait staff in the country, because it's the football coaching staff that's having to serve food tonight for the pregame meal.
Yeah, it's a crazy world. My son, again, he brought me a picture of what the players and the coaches are wearing. They're wearing a mask and like a visor, a glass or plastic visor. So, but you've got to go to take every precaution you can. Because college football, if we get laxed, we're not going to have college football. So you got to take every precaution. You can't trust that the wait staff, that somebody hasn't been out there picking up this coronavirus and getting your players. I mean, that could wipe out a team just like that. So, there's a lot of smart people, and thank goodness we've got them working for us, and they're helping us and showing us the ways to be safe and that we can have this season.
Well, one of the things that we could go ahead and let you know about is right here on location, we've got the entire run of BYOG gear here. This is a clothing line that's to benefit the All In Foundation for Dabo Swinney. But they literally have a new shirt with the stitched in with the mask that the patent pending is on it. So if you want to go check out some really neat stuff, just go online to byoggear.com. But of course, come see us here live at Lakeside Lodge, and we have a lot of it right here for you. Now, a couple other things that we're going to get into tonight. In the next segment, I did an interview with a member, Professor Dave Gorin of the Wake Forest Radio Network, the other day. And listen, it's a new day for all of our radio people. Our good friend Don Munson and Tim Beret and crew, they will be here in Clemson calling a game tomorrow like ESPN people are doing from the studios in Connecticut. They will not be in Winston-Salem. So we'll catch up with Dave Gorin in the next segment and take a look at the other ACC games going on this weekend. But Joe, before we get out to our first break and join up with Cindy Green Isaacs, you shared a story about going to a North Carolina game being as a recruit in 1974. You were from Greensboro, North Carolina. You still have a home up there, you and your brother Jeff. And you said at that North Carolina game, they made an announcement in Kenan Stadium that basketball practice was going to start in 30 minutes in Carmichael Auditorium. And you said you could not believe the amount of people that got up out of the football stadium and went over to Carmichael because it was basketball. And you even told me I was not going to be a second-class citizen there. What are your thoughts about Wake Forest being right down the road from you?
Yeah, it was, Wake Forest was 30 miles away from Greensboro, and I got recruited there. And but, as it is today, it's pretty hard for a recruit to overlook an offer from Clemson as opposed to Wake Forest. And Wake Forest is a great institution, great school, and all that. I'll never forget 1978. We had 11-1 season, and we play at Wake Forest. We beat them 51-6, and that was the record for Wake Forest. The capacity for their stadium. We broke the record in 1978, And the reason was because there were 25, 30,000 Clemson fans that went to that game. And so it was the record at that time. So, Wake is a small school, and it's a great university, but it doesn't have quite the appeal that a Clemson would have, and even the same thing today.
Yeah, first time that the Tigers had opened up in Winston-Salem since 1968. I can tell you that was 52 years ago because I was born in 1968. But
a great year.
Absolutely. It's like a fine wine. It keeps getting better with age.
Absolutely.
But before we head out to Cindy Green Isaacs here on the property at Lakeside Lodge, we'd be remiss if we don't tell you about one of our sponsors. That's Ingles Supermarkets. In Ingles, you can find stores located throughout 6 states here in the Southeast, and quite frankly, they even carry my favorite beverage, Hank's Beverages, out of Philadelphia. Root beer, grape soda, fantastic people there. And again, Ingles Supermarket, 6 states here in the Southeast, and remember, low prices and love the savings. But let's check in with Joe. Let's just say the better half of our, the better third of our combo here on CSN Live from Lakeside Lodge, Miss Cindy Green Isaacs, and let's see what she's up to here on the property.
Hey guys, welcome to Lakeside Lodge, and here we are on Traditions on the Lake. Last week I just got to talk to you about the patio, and this week here we are with the beautiful, spectacular vision of the lake and the pool in the background. Here at the Traditions on the Lake, they like to specialize in classic American and international favorite dishes, where they actually use organically grown produce and grass-fed free-range meats. They also like to carry the tradition of the motto for Coach Frank Howard, got to give 110% to the game. So here I am with 2 of my gorgeous friends who are actually getting to experience just that, the 110% effort from the chef on appetizers. I have Jamie Bostic here, the wife of Joe Bostic and a Clemson local. I also have Heather Morse, who is with a realtor with Cope and Company, also just right around the corner. So Jamie, let me ask you, what is this appetizer that you love so much?
This is the Brussels sprouts, and they're so good. Even when you don't have to make something yourself, it's always better. And what I love about them is the bacon, and when they're crispy on the edges, and I actually get them and dump them on a salad, so they're so yummy.
And here we have Heather Morse. Heather, tell me what you like about this drink.
This is a cucumber blueberry martini with fresh squeezed lime juice, and is garnished with frozen blueberries to add the extra chill to the very nice fresh martini.
Now, Heather, you also get to use this place in your business. I mean, you get to tell us about that.
So I have found that being local and staying local, eating local, and networking local works wonders for your business. This has been an unbelievable asset to this town with the Lakeside Lodge and Traditions opening. It's been wonderful that they have allowed the locals to come into this restaurant, that you don't just have to stay here in order to play here.
And Jamie, I know you also have another favorite appetizer. What is that?
I love the Mexican shrimp cocktail. A lot of times in the Mexican restaurants, it'll be called cocktail de camarones. It is so, so good, and it's light and refreshing, and you can eat it. We eat it in the winter as well, so.
All right, guys, so there you have it. Why don't I invite you to come out and make your own traditions right here at Traditions on the Lake.
Eagles and now part of the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. It's our good friend LaVon Kirkland, and here's some highlights that we are going to bring you on LaVon, and they're brought to you by Hall of Fame Sports Grill. That's 531 Wade Hampton Boulevard in Greenville, and come check us out during the week at Hall of Fame. Tuesdays, bar trivia for dummies. Wednesday, music bingo. Thursday, dirty bingo. Friday, karaoke with Fred Rock, and Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, it's football all weekend, including a tailgate party in the parking lot. Find all the information at HallOfFameSportsGrill.com. They are our replay sponsor, and here's a little bit of LaVon Kirkland. So my question is, Joe Bostic, who hit harder, a right guard in the NFL or a middle linebacker in the NFL? As we are so happy to have our good friend LaVon Kirkland join us here.
Yeah, my main job when I'd play against a cat like this, I mean, I didn't give him my hand. LaVon Kirkland, one of the all-time great Clemson University players. I kind of kept my head on the swivel to make sure I wasn't the guy getting knocked out. So, you know, guys like him and Jeff Davis, they were like, I guess they kept a little tally, like a Old West gun shooter, you know, he'd keep these little notches on his belt, and he probably, I probably got about 30 or 40 guys that had knocked out.
Yeah, you know, I've done a little bit of work there, but, you know, I was just trying to get out of the way for the most part, but I was such a big linebacker, it was just hard to miss me, so I had to do a lot of physical contact with people.
You took care of the middle.
Yeah, you know, I took it seriously. You know, I never played that position until I got to the NFL. And so it was a little bit of a learning curve that first year. Second year I ended up starting, and I got accustomed to it, and it was a lot of fun. It really was.
I mean, it's awesome, and not only did you have a great career with the Pittsburgh Steelers from 1992 to 2000, you also got to go to the other side of the country and visit Seattle. I'm certainly glad you're back here right now.
Oh, well, thank you.
And then, of course, finish up in Philadelphia, which, you know, that's a little bipolar state there from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia. But what a great career, and the thing I'm most proud about both of you is, A, the way you represent Clemson University, but B, the fact that y'all still get around pretty good after putting those knees out there on the line for so long.
You know, I was very fortunate. I never had any knee or back injuries. I actually never missed a football game from high school, throughout college, throughout the NFL. So I was just extremely fortunate, extremely blessed. I had a lot of people praying for me, so I was lucky in that way that I didn't have any major injuries or anything like that, so thank God for that.
All right, here in a second, I got together with Professor Dave Gordon. We're going to get that title to you here at some point, LaVon. But unfortunately, every school, every broadcast team in the ACC lost their sideline reporter this year. We know that Don Munson and crew, they'll be broadcasting tomorrow night's game at 7:30, which will be on ABC from right here in Clemson, South Carolina. One of the things I loved about catching up with Dave Gordon was simply the fact he now teaches a sports communications class at Wake Forest, and like half of his class is football players. And he said they're ready to go this weekend. He said the unknown is there, but despite being beat 115-6 the last 2 years combined by this Clemson football team, they feel like they got nothing to lose but to just go out there and play the best game they can tomorrow night.
Well, I think those guys are like a 33-point underdog.
32.
32, okay. Well, yeah, they really don't have anything to lose. I mean, no one expects them to win the game, so they can be a little loose. They can be, you know, just let it all out. I think the pressure in that way is going to be on the Tigers because they're the #1 team in the nation. Everybody's expecting them to win and expecting them to win big. So, yeah, I agree with the statement that the Wake Forest kids, they should be a little loose, but you can say that in the classroom, but on the field, it's a lot different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But again, I appreciate getting together with Dave Gordon from the Wake Forest Radio Network. That is Learfield IMG. And, of course, here's a few minutes that we spent together earlier this week. Welcome back into CSN Live, and it's truly an honor to be joined by my buddy Dave Gorn, who is not only part of the Wake Forest radio network, well, most years he is. He's a sideline reporter for Wake Forest, but also president of the National Sports Media Association and Professor Dave Gorn at Wake Forest University. Thanks for joining, bud.
My pleasure, Mark. Hope you're doing well.
We are, and you know what? In a year full of new norms, we do have football Saturday night in BB&T Stadium. There may be more people there for game day earlier in the day than will be in the stands for the football game. But, you know, Wake Forest has a lot of new normal this year. Losing Jamie Newman, they do get Sam Hartman back. Good 1-2 punch at running back with Christian Bill Smith and Kenneth Walker III. So, what can we expect from Wake Forest this year?
Well, I always like to say game one, you never know what to expect. So, you know, it's been just so crazy with limited spring ball, different kind of summer camp. You don't know who's hurt, who might be out with, somebody might have been exposed to the virus and they're out. You don't know that. But I think this team's excited. I have a handful of the Wake players in my class. I had them Monday night, and they're excited, ready to go.
And they want some normalcy in their lives. They're student athletes. That's one thing that I keep harping on, is this part of their identity. But one thing that Wake Forest football identity has been is consistency, going for four straight winning seasons now, 5 bowl games. What has allowed Dave Clawson to do that? Has it been as simple as being able to get guys in and keep them and not have to play them right off the bat?
Well, I think it goes back even farther than that. He came in with a plan and stuck to it through 2 horrendous 3-9 seasons. I mean, his first season among the worst offensive lines, if not the worst offensive line I've ever seen in covering any level of football. And they got incrementally better each of the next 3 years, and now they have that, I guess, sustained for Wake Forest period of success. But he recruits the guys who can make it at Wake Forest. You can't recruit guys who can't do it academically. And, most of them have to be patient and redshirt freshman year, which takes, a little bit of patience. So he's been able to coach guys up. Typically at Wake, you'll recruit guys who are overlooked by the Clemsons of the world, but they have to be coachable. They have to be able to put in the time in the weight room and conditioning and get bigger, better, faster, stronger.
Now, the one thing Wake Forest is, let's be honest, they're going to have to score some points Saturday night. They want to be in this game because it's a very prolific offense that Clemson will be bringing in. So, you lose Jamie Newman, but you get Sam Hartman back, who has experience at quarterback. Then I really loved some of the wide receivers. We talked about running backs real quickly, but Donovan Green is an absolute monster back there. And then you get the transfer in from Stanford as well. And, there's still another 6'5" wide receiver out there on the edge as well. So I think the charge is Saturday night is those wide receivers are going to have to make plays.
Yeah, and, there's not a lot of game experience among them. You're mentioning the loss of Sage Surratt, who opted out a couple weeks ago. That will hurt a lot. I think there's a lot of talent there at wide receiver, A.T. Perry, Nolan Gruel. You mentioned Donovan Green, who I think got his first playing time at Clemson last year. In fact, I was doing post-game in the Wake Forest coaches' locker room, and Coach Clawson called Donovan in and said, "What'd you learn today?" So he had a couple more games after that. So his learning curve picked up speed, and he made a couple of great catches down the stretch. Now we'll see if he can take that next step this year, and then you're going to need some more guys to do the work at receiver. But for me, the key is always, and it's the people who get overlooked, the offensive line. This will be the second straight year Wake is starting with 3 new starters for the most part. You have a couple guys who started last year, a couple of some playing time. But for me, it all goes back to the O-line, because if you can't hold those blocks, that extra split second to give your your quarterback the split second extra to throw the ball or find his receiver, the receiver that split second to get open, or the running backs that extra inch or two of space to find that hole, then it's not going to matter how good your quarterback, running backs, and receivers are.
Yeah, and I think as we continue with Dave Gorn from the Wake Forest Radio Network, that's Learfield, by the way. And how about on the defensive side of the ball? Because the one place that Wake has experience is up front on the defensive line, and no doubt about it. But that you're going to have to get some pressure on Trevor Lawrence to not leave these guys exposed on an island out there, defensive back. So does it all start up front with Boogie Basham and that crew and having to do something different to make Trevor Lawrence uncomfortable?
Absolutely. Boogie Basham, a lot is on his shoulders this year. He's got some guys up there with him that can help. Veteran, I was just reading, it might be the most veteran defensive line that assistant coach for the defense, Dave Cohen, has had since he's been here, and he's been here the whole time with Dave Clausen. So those guys have to set the tone. Your linebacking crew is pretty good with Ryan Smenda, who's played a lot in his 3 years, and Jaquez Williams, who really came on the second half of last year. You have guys in the defensive backfield who've played a lot, not necessarily starters, and you're replacing Amari Henderson, corner, who made the 53-man and actually made the practice squad with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, there's a lot of talent back there in Aseng Bassi, who made the Denver Broncos 53-man roster. So, you've lost some experience in the defensive backfield, but you have some guys who are coming back from injuries. You have Nasir Greer, who is as hard a hitter as Wake has had in the Clausen era, and some guys who are looking to get back from injuries and make some noise back there. So, for me, it's fun because you have that anticipation. You think some guys are going to really come on strong, and then, they have to do it once they get out there. Their job is to have that team ready to play when they kick the ball on Saturday night.
Hey, listen, you're always ready, and I figured out, with this new norm, no Clemson Radio Network on the road, we got to have a Dave Gorn sighting in the Demon Deacons outfit, riding that Harley Davidson out onto the field. I think that could be the new norm for 2020.
I haven't even checked, but I don't even know if the Deacon's going to ride the motorcycle out on Saturday night.
Yeah,
I bet if he does, I'm sure he'll have a mask. I know that. But
well, listen, again, thank you, Professor Dave Gorn of the Wake Forest Radio Network, and I know you'll be there Saturday night, and best of luck to your Deeks.
Thank you, Sturge. Always a pleasure to be with you. Have a good weekend.
And I are going to get into breaking down this Clemson-Wake Forest game, looking at some numbers, and Joe's got a little story and question for Levon as well. We'll also find out some information about the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, and that's something that is near and dear to Levon Kirkland's heart. So, Cindy Green-Isaacs, what you got for us now?
Back from Chicago, Illinois. He is going to be a freshman here at Clemson, majoring in civil engineering, and he has a question about our team.
Will Clemson cover the spread? I believe the spread was 33.
Okay, well, again, we're here at Lakeside Lodge, 13,500 Clemson Boulevard in Seneca, the Clemson-Seneca area. It is literally Clemson's only resort experience, but I am surrounded by legends tonight. Of course, my co-host Joe Bostic, and tonight we're joined by Levon Kirkland, the former member of the Ring of Honor. And guys, let's stop and look at this real quickly. Clemson won a total of 15 games in a row from 1977, when Joe Bostic was playing, till the year 1991. I believe that was your final year there. And all-time wins, Clemson versus Wake Forest. Check this out. Tigers own a 67 wins, 17 losses, 1 tie. But 6 of those wins for Wake Forest came between 1942 and 1947.
Wow.
Clemson had they were one of the most affected schools in the country by World War II in the number of people that went overseas. So I think you can almost throw those 6 games out right there, and that even becomes that much more dominating, just like y'all did during your time against the Demon Deacons as well.
Well, I lost 1 year. It was kind of a funny story. Charlie Pell was our defensive coach who ended up being our head coach in 77, 78, and we played Wake Forest. And they had a running back by the name of James McDougal.
Okay.
And James McDougal rushed for over 200 yards against the Tigers that day. Charlie Pell gets elevated to the head coach at Clemson the next year. We're getting ready to play Wake Forest. He blasts into the first meeting of that week on a Monday. And he proceeded to tell each one of us, he said, guys, I've been a defensive coach for a long time. I have never had a 200-yard rusher on one of my defenses. He said, let me tell you this right now. This is just for the defense alone. If y'all let this guy run up and down the field like he did last year, Monday, y'all will rue the day you've ever seen my face.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, they played this game, and James McDougal may have gotten 35 yards and like 20 carries. It looked like 11 Levon Kirklands out there on defense. They were killing this guy.
Right.
Levon, I've never seen a worse game when it comes to this series than a Halloween massacre in 1981 on the Tigers' road to the national championship, 82-24. There used to be an old show back in the day on WTBS called Football Saturday on WTBS.
Okay.
And there were a crew, and if you remember in the third quarter, Clemson ran an out package that the kid cuts up the sideline for like an 80-yard touchdown pass. And they accused Clemson of running up the score right then and there.
Right.
And I took the time to write a letter. And that might have been the most defense that we saw all game long when it came to that 1981 Clemson-Wake Forest game. But any particular memory of Wake with you? Because going to Winston-Salem can always be a bizarre experience.
It really can be, but my best memory of Wake Forest is my senior year. It's probably one of the best games I had. I had a sack, PBU, made some really big plays in that game. So, and the reason why I was kind of pumped up, there was a guy who's a quarterback, I think his last name was West, and he was from Florence, South Carolina, which is about 15 minutes from Lamar. So I was really pumped up to get back at him a little bit, and it was a real fun game. We won that game kind of handily, but I go back and I watched that 82 to basically nothing game, and it looked like varsity playing against JV. And the last couple of years, it's kind of been the same way, with our team just really putting it on them. They haven't scored a touchdown yet. So I really honestly see pretty much the same thing happening tomorrow night. I'll be surprised if we don't play the same way we've been playing before.
Do you expect Clemson to have, one of the questions I want to see answered tomorrow is, depending on who you will listen to in the national media, and there might be some truth to it, Trevor Lawrence got off to a little bit rougher start at the beginning of the season than anyone was expecting because of the way he played against Alabama in the championship game. I think Clemson goes out there kind of like the Russian hockey team from 1980 and tries to score on the first possession and let the tone. And I keep coming back to being a horse racing fan. Horses have blinders on, so they don't see anything but what's in front of them.
Right.
And I think the leadership inside that locker room for Clemson is their blinders this year.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got some very experienced guys coming back, especially on the offense, especially with your trigger man being Trevor. I'm sure those guys are going to be focused. And I thought what he did last year, at first I think he was kind of pushing the issue a little bit, trying to make the big play all the time. He settled down as the season went along. And I feel like you will see a more mature Trevor this year, tomorrow night. I think you're going to see that. I think he's going to pass the ball around a little bit more, spread it out a little bit. And, they can always depend on Etienne to run the ball. So I think they're going to rely heavily on the run, and Trevor's going to pick his guys out, and he's able to use his legs as a weapon. So I'm looking for a mature team coming in and playing and getting it done and understanding where they want to go.
Now, Joe Bostic, the right guard and the offensive lineman, let me ask you on this one. I don't think Coach Sweeney or the staff are really, they're that concerned with statistics or numbers. But we mentioned 2 weeks ago in our ACC preview what Travis Etienne has a chance to do already at 62 touchdowns. With his next touchdown, he passes Tony Dorsett, the number 15 all-time in NCAA history. Might you see the package get a little smaller, Joe, when they get inside the 10-yard line? Because the one thing you know Travis Etienne's going to do, he's going to find the end zone.
Yeah, he's a big-time player. He's a home run hitter, and that guy's speed to burn, great balance. Just a you know more about these running backs
he
than I do.
reminds me of Terry Allen in that way, where he has that great balance. He has good vision. He can turn it on when he needs to turn on. He can run with power, as you've seen in the last playoff games that Clemson been a part of. So to have a running back like that is a blessing, because he can get you out of trouble, and you can lean on him, and he can always produce.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys you're gonna tackle him 4 or 5 times, 2 yards, 3 yards, 1 yard, and you're gonna say, man, we got this guy nailed down, and next thing you know, it's an 80-yard breakaway. He's a big time football player, and he's gonna be playing this thing. He's gonna be playing this game a long time, and he's gonna break every record. Ted Brown is the leading rusher in ACC history, NC State guy. I played high school ball against him. We were the same grade in school, and Ted Brown's been leading 40 years, over 40 years in the ACC. Ted's going to be in second place here in the next few weeks. So, Travis Etienne's a big-time player.
All right, before we head back out to break and with Cindy Isaacs and catch up with her, LaVon, you're now working for the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. I think I can say we, because I'm a member and help out. And 7-8 classes of inductees now, which it's unbelievable. We barely scratched the surface, but that's not what your passion is. It's about, I guess, the Bridge Builder program and everything else. Give our audience a little bit of an idea of what you're doing with the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame and how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. What we basically do is, because South Carolina, if you know the stats of college and career readiness, we're like 43rd in the nation, which is a problem for us. So the Bridge Builders Excellent program, we basically help educate, empower, and encourage all student athletes to be possibly the best they can be. And we go in classes and we try to make sure that they understand that playing football, playing sports, it really gives you a lot of soft skills. And soft skills you can use beyond the football field. So we try to make sure that they understand that they're ready for the next level, whether that be college, whether that be in the workforce or whatever. And being from South Carolina and being a former student athlete, it's a passion of mine to give back to those young people. And we do a tremendous job of also talking to those guys on the Inside Blitz with LaVon Kirkland and telling their stories to the community, so the community can know that, South Carolina is really strong as far as football players and all-time coaches, but also with student athletes. And we want to make sure the message gets out there. We also want to make sure that different companies can join in the fight with us and join in the movement with us. And I think that we're just scratching the surface.
Absolutely.
We really are. And, if you want to get in touch with us, you can, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, at SC Football spelled out, HOF.org.
Absolutely. Real quickly, sometimes you got to share a story, Joe, but go ahead.
Let me, I want to mention a couple of things. This past week we had 2 Clemson graduates.
Yes.
One of them signed a contract for $160 million.
A lot of money.
And another one signed it for $55 million. That would be Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins. We used to have a saying, and you exemplify this to a T, that money and fame will bring out what is already there in you and will magnify it. If you're a bad guy, you're going to be a worse guy.
Yes.
And if you're a good guy, and and I think these two men are going to they're going to take that money, obviously going to take care of their family and all that, but they're going to do good things with that money.
No
and
question about
just like what you have done, any number, and we're so fortunate at Clemson to have great former athletes. I mean, you just don't read much about any guys getting in trouble. They're doing good things. They're making their communities better. They're working hard. They're setting good examples. And, I'm just as proud of that as I am the football teams.
No question. It seems like that the Paul journey and those programs like that really help them beyond just being a football player.
Yeah.
It helps them to be great citizens. And that's what we're always looking for. And when you talk about the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, we're trying to create better citizens. Clemson does it on the college level. We're trying to do that thing on the middle school level on up and have a network where, they can always come back and they can always depend on us.
Yeah, so you're always planting seeds.
Yeah,
and,
always.
One of the guys that was inducted last year, Steve Spurrier, caused a little bit of problem here in the Palmetto State, but I was on live with him, and Coach Spurrier liked to jab people. You can't spell citrus without UT.
Yeah.
Tennessee fans hate him for that comment to this day.
Right.
And I said, Coach, is there any one comment that you're really proud of, from back in the day? And he's like, now, Sturge, talking doesn't win football games, because if it did, Georgia would have beaten us a lot more when I was at the University of Florida, and I end up making national news because somebody tweets out that clip.
Yeah,
so it was nice to make national news for something that I didn't do wrong.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
So Cindy Green Isaacs here on the property at Lakeside Lodge. Find out all the information at lakesidelodgeclemson.com. It is, of course, Clemson's only resort experience in a condo hotel. And Cindy, what do you got for us now?
All right, Mark, we are here with two people in the audience to ask questions to you guys. I have Zach Reback here from Chicago, Illinois. And Zach, what year are you at Clemson?
I'm going to be an incoming freshman.
And what are you majoring in?
I'm going to be majoring in civil engineering.
Wow, so I'd like to know, what's your question?
My question is, will Clemson cover the spread this upcoming weekend?
That's one of the great things, is being able to integrate Clemson fans with former Clemson football players, and then me.
Yeah.
The small, short guy.
Having a great program, we have great fans.
That's right.
The best fans, and
no question.
we're all fortunate.
First question's already been asked. We cover spread.
So do you think Clemson will cover the spread? As of earlier today, it had gone back to 32 points, maybe hanging in that 32 to 33 point area.
What do you think, Mr. Kirkland?
I really think so. Even though the first games are always the toughest games and you're really not in an incredible flow, and especially with the pandemic going on, you kind of wonder how will they come out? Will they be sharp or not? But I really think this team is, the great thing is they are a veteran team. And these guys can make plays, and the defense is going to be ready for them. So I can see those guys covering the spread. I really can.
All right. Let's go back to Cindy Green Isaacs in the crowd for another question.
All right, here we are with Randy Sturgis, who actually owns a 3-bedroom condo right in the corner. So, Randy, go ahead and let's ask your question.
Okay, Trevor Lawrence gets all of the hype and sucks most of the oxygen out of the room. Big-time Heisman candidate. But tell us about Travis Etienne. He's got a good shot at it too. Tell us what you guys think about that.
And that's an interesting question in its own right, because I believe that's going to be the case. I do believe Travis Etienne will have a bigger impact this upcoming season than Trevor Lawrence, because one of the things with Trevor moving on to the NFL is probably the projected #1 pick. You're going to want to see what DJ Uiagalelei can do as a backup and things of that nature. So how much Trevor plays, depends on if you're up 42-0 going into halftime.
Yeah, I mean, if you're up big, you're going to try to make sure that your main guy, your trigger guy, is well rested, not going in there some garbage minutes and getting hurt or anything like that. And like I said, Well, Wake Forest, they're a good team, and they've been pretty consistent. They've been a team that's been to a bowl game for the last 4 years. But the one thing that really catches up to them is their depth, and they don't really have a lot of it. So I can see them pounding and grounding on them pretty early and pretty often.
Yeah, that Wake Forest is a well-coached team.
Yes.
Very disciplined team. They just don't have the horses, the athletes that Clemson does. And when you talk about the athletes, you're also talking about depth. Wake Forest is a developmental school.
Right.
Clemson's able to plug new guys in. Brian Brissy, all these young guys can plug in and go and start playing. Wake Forest is going to develop guys over a 2 or 3 year period. Every now and again, they're going to have 15, 20 seniors that come, they've redshirted a few guys and all that. So, they're going to have big years every 3 or 4 years. But it's a very consistent program,
Yes.
and they just are what they are.
Yeah, and they're losing a lot of guys too. They're losing their starting quarterback, their leading receiver. They have to go with a quarterback that hasn't played in quite some time.
Sam Hartman
with a system that's been that slow read option system. So are you going to go with that system again? So I think they have a lot of questions. Like you said, they're always going to be a solid team. And they're going to be a team that, every 2 to 3 years are going to be really, really good. But I just don't think they can match up with the manpower that Clemson has.
To me, they're kind of like Clemson basketball back in the day where you took a couple of years to get ready for your shot and to make a run. But you are dead on, Levon, in the fact that, Jamie Newman leaves to go to Georgia, and now he's opted out of Athens to get prepared for the NFL draft. Sage Surratt, he opted out due to COVID-19. So one of the principles of Dave Clawson, Joe, has been getting them in and letting them get in the system and get older, and they're not going to be able to rely on that.
That's exactly what happened to them. The quarterback, the Sage Surratt, the wide receiver, a number of guys. They had a transfer from Maryland, an offensive guard. He gets hurt. He's out for the whole year. So they were lined up to have all these developmental guys and have seniors there in critical spots. But with the COVID, being able to sit out, the transfer portal, and all the stuff that happens, really it's kind of backfired on Wake Forest. So they're going to have a tough time with Clemson. They have no skill guys back from last year. So quarterback, top 2 running backs, wide receivers, all new guys. Their defense is pretty experienced, but that was a defense that gave up 55 points against Clemson last year, or 56.
And sometimes experience doesn't mean good.
No.
It doesn't always mean good. So.
No, and listen, I think it does set up well for Clemson. I mean, the worst part of the passing game for Clemson is the fact that you're replacing T. Higgins. Justin Ross is out. So my second big question when it comes to tomorrow night is, we have heard how good Cornell Powell has looked as a senior headed into this season, and is he going to be able to even somewhat match the offensive production that Justin Ross has provided the last 2 years?
Well, I think it's going to be hard when you look at T. Higgins and what T. Higgins has done over the course of his career. Ross is such a big playmaker, but you can tell that those young guys are going to come along. And a lot of times when you got a lot of depth, you don't really see the depth displayed. I think this game you're going to see the depth come into play. You're like, wow, we're still just rolling along. So I think that's what you're going to see happening tomorrow as far as the wide receivers are concerned.
All right. Last night, I guess we got back a little bit of normalcy with some football because Miami played in front of about 5,000 at Hard Rock Stadium, and that's one thing we've gotten used to here in the last 5 or 6 years. But they did go ahead and cover against UAB, but much like what Clemson and Wake have, no fans in the stands. At noon tomorrow on the ACC network, you've got Syracuse at number 18 North Carolina, where the Tar Heels are nearly a 21-point favorite. I think that's a good football team in Chapel Hill, but we were talking a little bit about some pressure 2 weeks ago being on Dave Doran. The next guy behind that might be one of my favorites in Dino Babers, because it has been a huge drop-off since they won 10 games a couple of years ago.
Well, I think a lot of times people make the mistake of confusing last year's team with this year's team. So a lot of times you're thinking like, oh, we were really good last year and we're going to just be even better. You hear coaches put that spin on, and then a few things happen, and you have the season that Syracuse has. So, yeah, they're under a lot of pressure, and they're going to North Carolina, which North Carolina proved to everybody last year that they were a quality team, that Mac Brown still, as he always did, has a way of recruiting good players. And I can see North Carolina really improving. So for Syracuse, I think it's going to be a tough game for those guys.
Now, Joe, the game, it's a great lead-in game for Clemson-Wake at 7:30 on ABC. The other game that I'm really intrigued by tomorrow is Duke at Notre Dame, because Notre Dame will be supporting an ACC logo on their uniforms for the first time ever, and they've been a little snarky online with some of their comments in doing so. But Clemson fans are going to want to pay attention because former backup quarterback Chase Bryce was named the starting quarterback for Duke. David Cutcliffe, an offensive genius. Right now, the Fighting Irish are favored by 20 to 20.5 points, and I'm going to go ahead and call it. Notre Dame will not cover that spread at home tomorrow versus Duke. I think you're looking more in like the 42-24, 42-28 area. Am I wrong?
Well, it could possibly work out that way. I just don't know a whole lot about Duke. I think obviously Chase Bryce is a solid quarterback. He showed that here, and I think he'll bring a new dynamic to that team. And David Cutcliffe, I've got the utmost respect for him, the Manning brothers, and all the people that he has coached and brought along to great professional careers. So, I think Duke's got a real shot, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit if it's in the fourth quarter and it's 7, 8, 10 point difference, and and a team like Duke, that's exactly what you want to do. You just want to be close enough in the fourth quarter to have a shot to pull it out somehow or another, and I think Duke's got an opportunity to do that.
Well, I think Cut is probably one of the best coaches in the nation, and as far as quarterbacks, he's really one of the gurus of the game. And if Chase is this guy, he sees something in Chase, even though a lot of times with Cut, it's kind of always in the system. For him to take a guy out of the system and to bring him in and to make him the starter says a lot about Chase and what he brings to the table. And I think Clemson fans know what he brings to the table, that he's a good quality quarterback. And like you said, I think that it's going to be a closer game than most people think. And if Duke can hang in there in the fourth quarter, hey, anything can happen.
I just love to see Notre Dame get stressed in their first so-called ACC game. Now at 3:30 tomorrow, I don't know what to expect. Georgia Tech was an enigma last year with Jeff Collins trying to literally put square pegs in round holes from the old Paul Johnson regime. But now you got Mike Norvell and Florida State, and to me, this is a game that should be played every year. Those two schools are too close between Atlanta and Tallahassee. But right now, the Seminoles are favored by 11 points over Georgia Tech. But I think that's more because we don't still know what to expect out of Georgia Tech in year number 2 of Jeff Collins.
Well, I think with Georgia Tech, you're right, with the regime of Paul Johnson leaving. And last year, I don't think they knew what they were at all. And maybe they wanted to be more of a read option, passing team. They just didn't have the guys to do it. I actually went to a game at Georgia Tech, and I was like, wow, these guys are playing college football. So with Florida State and their history and the talent that they normally bring in, even though their season haven't been that great, I think they should be more than 11-point dog.
The talent's there.
They got a lot of talent. Mike did a great job with the Memphis teams, and I think as the season goes along, Florida State is going to get back there. They're not quite there yet. I see this game not being one of the best games of tomorrow. I see it being a little sloppy, but I can see Florida State eventually, with their talent and what they got, winning that game.
Yep.
At 4 p.m. on the ACC network, Austin Peay at Pitt. No problems for Pitt there. I just like to say, let's go Peay.
Okay.
Of course, Clemson, number 1 Clemson at Wake Forest at 7:30 on ABC. And then finally at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, this would have been a lot more intriguing a couple of years ago, but Western Kentucky at Louisville. I mean, Bobby Petrino's got to be somewhere in that football game. But I'm telling you right now, outside of Dabo Swinney, I say watch out for Louisville because I think Scott Satterfield might be the second best coach in the ACC already.
Well, Satterfield had those guys playing a lot more inspired football than what Petrino had them playing. I mean, I remember them coming in. I have a nephew that plays for Louisville, and he was about to leave. Mm-hmm. He really wanted to transfer because the climate was so toxic there. And Satterfield comes in, and now they're a whole lot better. And I'm sure they're going to have a lot more improvement. They're still not quite there yet, but they're going to be a better team.
Absolutely.
All right, Joe, when we come back, you've got a question for LaVon Kirkland. And, LaVon, we're going to try to bring on your partner at the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, Michael Foster.
That'd be great.
We'll get some predictions for tomorrow night, talk about your best memories. Also, take a look ahead to next week's show because, believe it or not, it will be the Palmetto Bowl for this year in 2020 in South Carolina. That will be the Citadel at Clemson next Saturday. But Cindy Green Isaacs is out on the property. And listen, what a great property here at Lakeside Lodge Clemson, lakesidelodgeclemson.com online, Clemson's only resort experience. And Cindy, what's happening up there?
Mark. Well, I tell you what, the state of South Carolina is making itself known in the NFL lately, and with over 11 players in the 2020 draft, the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame is dedicated to honoring those Palmetto State players. Here I have Michael Foster from the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. He is the Vice President of Operations and Community Programs. And he is going to talk with us about the South Carolina Hall of Fame. Tell me something. Tell me, in 2012 it got started. Yep. So what was the catalyst that got that started? And give us a few of the inductees.
Sure, absolutely. In 2012, our chairman, David Wyatt, wanted to do something for the community. Obviously, South Carolina has always been great at football, and the history of football has always been great in South Carolina. But he also wanted a way to help people with that program as well. And so it's like, hey, let's start a South Carolina Football Hall of Fame where we can honor the football legends and use that as a catalyst to help others with it.
That's right. So tell me about some of the youth programs that you've got that are being benefited by the organization.
Sure. So we want to tell the stories of our legends of success and leadership so that way that we can reach the students here in South Carolina. We're 43rd in the country in career and college readiness. And so we want to try and help educate, empower, and encourage those students to have a successful life and in anything that they do. And so we have programming that digital and going also into schools to kind of help bridge that gap between their high school life and college or career, or whether or not they're going to be playing football at the next level. We want them to have the life skills to be successful off the field.
And that is such an important factor with the high school kids coming out of the athletic atmosphere.
Absolutely.
And I know that takes funding. So what do you do to fundraise, and how can we help?
Yeah, we're mostly fundraised by or supported by sponsorships and the businesses of South Carolina. We want to also connect them with these students so that way it helps with their workforce development and also teaches them some of those leadership skills that we're trying to teach these kids when they move forward. So sponsorship, obviously we'll take donations. We are a nonprofit. And then we have a membership thing where you can become a member of the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame, and some of the benefits of that is being able to vote on our awards, like the upcoming classes. We have a Blanchard Rogers Trophy that we give out to the South Carolina Collegiate Player of the Year. Last year, Clemson fans would be happy to know it was Trevor Lawrence. Before that was Travis Etienne. So there is a little bit of a Clemson tinge there, but we want to celebrate those that are doing great job here in the state and help them move forward from there. So.
Awesome. There is one thing that I read on your website, and it was a statement that said it's more than football. It's making a difference through football.
Absolutely.
And it seems to be a legacy that Dabo seems to be creating here at Clemson on his team. So I think that should be something that sticks in the heart of all coaches across the nation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Go to scfootballhof.org to join the movement.
All right. Thank you very much. Back at you, Mark.
All right, we're back here live at Lakeside Lodge in Clemson, and we're going to begin finishing things up. As I want to hit y'all with some numbers as we're joined by LaVon Kirkland, and of course you can follow him on Twitter at LaVon_Kirkland, correct?
That's right.
And we're going to get Joe Bostic on Twitter at some point. How funny would that be?
Joe's
Not
right
very.
And then you can follow me at Sturgis Sports, and of course at Clem Sports News for Clemson Sports News, and we'll tell you some more about next week's show. But guys, I love bringing some numbers to the end of things, because to me that kind of puts the bow on what Clemson program represents versus the history of Wake Forest. So think about this. What was the last gift that Wake Forest gave Clemson University back in 2008?
I think I know that is the changing of the guard, head coaching.
I think it was William Christopher Sweeney?
Some guy like that.
Boy, yeah.
A very frustrating 12-7 loss. It leads to a risky, let's promote that. And listen, Clemson fans need to be thankful for Tommy Bowden forever for going, hey, go ahead and do this right now and let Coach swing, because chances are he might not have gotten that opportunity. It might have been a Gary Patterson coming in from TCU. Longest winning streak by the Tigers in this series was ended. The final win was your senior year in 1991, 15 in a row. The last 4 decades, Clemson leads this series 34-6. The Tigers are in search of their 26th conference championship beginning tomorrow night.
Wow.
Are 25-21 in their 46 bowl games. Have a total of 758 wins, 261 draft picks, 35 from the first round, and has spent 17 weeks ranked at number 1. Wake Forest has been to 14 bowl games in their history, 2 conference championships, and 5 first-round picks. Those numbers are pretty. There's a huge difference.
Yeah, they tell the story. They tell the story of 2 different programs. A program that has really heavily invested in football, and that football is very important. I'm not saying it's not important to Wake Forest, but you can see the investment more so with a Clemson University than a Wake Forest. So that's why those numbers speak the tale.
Now, Joe, you had a question that you wanted to get with LaVon, and we'll get to working with bringing our buddy Michael Foster from the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame and put him up here between LaVon and Joe. And we're going to pick a couple of games on our way out the door.
Well, I'm just sharing a story. I got up with LaVon about a year ago, and I got on YouTube, and they were playing in 1989 against West Virginia. And, I mean, number 44 was all over the field. I mean, this cat was doing everything. And they had a quarterback at West Virginia named Major Harris, and I think he was second in the Heisman Trophy voting. The field announcer got Major Harris's mother on the broadcast, and I'm telling you, this lady wasn't even paying attention. She was like, "They're killing my baby."
Yeah. He needs to go pro. They're killing my baby.
And so I even felt bad when I came up to LaVon. I said, "Man," and they had some of your buddies up there with you, and I was like, "Man, you guys are wearing that cat out." I said, I felt sorry for his mother, and but. I think there were a lot of mothers that felt the same way about LaVon Kirkland that time.
You know what? I always say that was ESPN's fault, because they really, and he was the second in the Heisman, so I get that. But they really boosted this kid up, major trouble or whatever he was, major excitement. And I think a lot of people didn't really know about our defense. They knew about it, but didn't quite know that we had 4 outside linebackers alone that went in the top 4 rounds of the NFL draft. We had the next year we'd be the number 1 defense in the nation. We had some players, and we had some guys who are unconventionally fast as far as defensive linebackers are concerned. And we really took that as a challenge. And we knew if we would rush our lanes and play smart, that we can get after this guy. And we definitely did. They had the first drive, and after that we shut him down. And he was like, you could see he was shaking that He never had a defense like that against him. And his mom saw it. His mom was just like, he needs to go to the NFL right now. They're not blocking for him. You know, they're killing my baby. So I get that story all the time.
Ed McDaniel and you were faster from sideline to sideline than Major Harris was that night.
Talking about Wayne Simmons, Ashley Shepard. We had a guy like Chester McLaughlin. And Chester didn't even start. And Chester was a first-round pick. So we had a bunch of NFL guys on that team that could flat out get after it.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of dudes come through the building.
Yeah, no question about it.
And got a bunch of dudes over there now.
Yeah.
And I'm still not one of them. But I want to get one of my buddies, and yours too, Levon Kirkland, Michael Foster from the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. I want him to give a little bit more information about how you can get in touch with them to make a difference, because transitioning these players from football into the next part of their life is a lot bigger than a lot of us think. So, Michael, come up here between Joe and Levon, and Michael Foster, South Carolina Football Hall of Fame. And again, you can find out everything you need to know about your organization at scfootballhof.org.
That's right. We want you to be a bridge builder. Join the movement, scfootballhof.org. It's real easy. Everything that you're able to give to the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame goes directly to helping us help these kids and help the students in South Carolina be the very best that they can be in their college career and life endeavors. And if we obviously honoring guys like Joe and Levon are important to us, but that's a major platform that we can use to tell their stories of leadership, of success, and send that down to the next generation of kids to learn from these guys who've already done it and seen guys who've been successful. We want them to see that success and have a blueprint to be the best that they can be.
See, now I really got you up here under the premise of I want to talk to you about how angry you're going to be tomorrow as college football kicks off and your Michigan Wolverines are nowhere to be played. Plus, our friend Chris Smith is in the building with his Ohio State hat. Might we see a brawl out here in the next 30 minutes?
It could be. I know Chris, and he's a great guy, but
he's still an Ohio State fan.
He's still an Ohio State fan. He lives in that in Ohio. He's a team in Ohio.
0 for 6 against the Palmetto State, Ohio.
Yeah, that's when I moved down here, Michigan has been struggling for a while against Ohio State. Props to Chris. Yeah, there you go. But, it has kind of given me a little bit of joy to see the South Carolina teams put it on them a little bit since I've been here. So
it's the only time you can shut up those Buckeyes right now. Right? You know what I mean? So, but
if you say the word Clemson, it's automatic trigger.
That's kryptonite. Yeah.
So let's start with simply, I want to take a look at, I think Notre Dame beats Duke. We're going to choose 3 games right here. I think Notre Dame beats Duke, but I do not think they cover in South Bend, Indiana. And just like Joe and Levon said earlier, if Coach Cutcliffe can keep that thing around, Duke hanging around till the fourth quarter, that could be pucker up time in South Bend, because I think that's another place there will be no fans in attendance tomorrow.
Go ahead, Levon.
I'm going to tell you, Mike knows more about football than a whole lot of people. So I'm going to let Mike take this. Okay. I think that Notre Dame will win the game. Yep. I think it will be close than most people expect. But, Notre Dame's going to win that game. But I'm excited about seeing Chase and seeing what he can do being the head man this time, the starter.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Levon. I think Notre Dame is able to take control of this game. Obviously, it's hard to tell what teams are going to be at right now, but interested to see how Chase Bryce does in the new gig there in Duke. But he's got some playmakers out there, and so who knows? They might be able to surprise somebody. But it's a totally different atmosphere when you go up to Notre Dame and there's no one there. Yeah. So that changes the home field advantage quite a bit there.
I'm with you on that one. Okay, let's stay within the Atlantic Coast Conference again. You guys are putting a little bit more faith in that talent in Tallahassee than I'm willing to right now, because, Joe, This is Florida State's 4th offensive line coach in 4 years. What's one thing that has paid off at Clemson in the era of Dabo Swinney? Consistency on the coaching staff. Robbie Caldwell being there and knowing what he's doing, and now they're about 3 deep. When I can remember some years, Clemson wasn't 1 deep on the offensive line. I got the feeling that Jeff Collins has done some better recruiting. Georgia Tech is a really big, I said it earlier, enigma. But you're going to see that team improve this year in year number 2 of Jeff Collins. He can flat out coach coming from Temple.
Yeah, I think Georgia Tech's going to be a better team. But the whole Paul Johnson thing, you got guys in stances that like they were when I was playing. You got all your weight.
Run.
Yeah, it's a run. And so when you're trying to segue and trying to go back into a more modern offense where guys are in balanced stance and they're pass blocking and all this stuff, so that whole team had to be. It's going to take years to get the old guys out and get the new guys in. So I just think Florida State's got way too much talent. They've struggled mightily the last few years, but I think they've got more talent than Georgia Tech does, and I think they'll prevail.
All right, then finally, it's Clemson, number 1 Clemson, now entering 18th week, ranked number 1 in the country. 7:30 kickoff at BB&T Field in Winston-Salem. The Tigers, will say, are a 32-point favorite, and I think they'll cover. I think that the best thing that Clemson has going for them in the talent is the fact that the coaches can get prepared for the unknown and let the seniors and juniors in this locker room kind of police themselves, and that frees up a lot of extra time for this coaching staff.
Yeah, as we said before, we just think Clemson's a superior team in every facet of the game. You look at the offensive line, even though the offensive line is going to be a little new, they got guys who played before, so I expect them to do well. This new defensive line, which I'm really excited about, who is going to be the combination they put in on the first down, second down, or even the third down package. I just feel that with the running game that Clemson has, that they're just going to run the ball down their throats, and I think they're going to be way surpassed what the what the odds are going to be. I think Clemson wins this game running away.
Yeah, I think there's a dynamic that happened, and Clemson's going to be a hungry team. Now you say to yourself, how is that when they were the number 2 team in the country last year? I think Trevor Lawrence came out his freshman year, had a great year last year, but I think, as he went into that championship game, he sees Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow, quite frankly, was a much better quarterback that night.
Yeah.
And I think Trevor Lawrence, looked at that and said, you know what, that's the kind of quarterback I want to be. And that's the kind of person, that I need to develop to that guy's level.
Right.
And I think his hunger, his desire, his leadership is going to propel the whole entire team to be better players. And, these guys, they're not here to win a conference championship. They're here to do great things.
Right.
And I think an old Deshaun Watson, that dude, he was destined for a national championship. He was going to carry 100 other guys with him.
Yeah.
He was just that kind of guy. And I hope that that's what Trevor Lawrence is going to do, is going to take this team and say, hey, I want to be a better player. I want to be a more complete quarterback. You guys, I need y'all's help. You need to come with me.
And no offense, the year did not end the way that they wanted to down in New Orleans, so they ought to be a little bit salty coming off their first loss in 29 games. So
yes. He needs to bring out his inner Michael Jordan.
Yes. Yep. Yes. All right. Next week, it is the Palmetto Bowl here in the Palmetto State. Clemson in the Citadel. That's it for 2020. Next week, we're going to be joined by Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tigers, live here at Lakeside Lodge. Hoping to catch up with our pickers, going to be Larry Penley, the golf coach. Maybe we can get you a couple of swing lessons there if you need it.
Yeah.
And then Joe and I'm going to be catching up with Bill Bender from the Sporting News, the national college football writer for the Sporting News. And then the week of the Virginia game, we'll be catching up with Ryan McGee from ESPN. You may have not known back in the day, Levon, his father ref some of your games in Death Valley.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his first game that he refed in Death Valley was in 1982. So I'm sure he's got a lot of memories of Levon Kirkland.
He didn't call me
on
all sides, so I like him.
Okay, that's fair enough. But Cindy Green Isaacs, great job today. We got to listen. Let's give the rundown. Gary McDaniel, he gets the All-Star Award tonight. Poor thing was involved in a car wreck earlier today and still toughed this out here at Lakeside Lodge today. So I can tell you this much. He is a lot tougher than I am at this point. But we want to thank Leighton Cubbage and everybody here at Lakeside Lodge, number one, for believing in us. But number two, I can't wait till we get a home game next week and the weather comes down a little bit. This is going to be next level.
And all these people here, thank you so much for being here with us, and
And you got
talking Clemson football, which we all love.
Yep. A great restaurant here at Lakeside Lodge and Traditions, and you got a pool bar and another bar in there. And also, we want you to check out BYOG, that's Dabo Sweeney's line of clothing, where all that money goes into the All In Foundation. And number two, they now have this really cool thing. It's like the mask is built into the top of your sweatshirt. Wow. And it's up in patent pending right now. That's how much they become popular. So, matter of fact, here comes Darby Childress showing you one of these things. But this is from BYOG. And again, you can go online and find all their gear at byoggear.com. Did I do that right, Darby?
Yes, that's about right.
Okay, good. And then finally, our friends at Ingles Supermarket. 6 states that they represent here in the Southeast. At Ingles, you got low prices and you got to love the savings. And then finally, Hall of Fame Sports Grill. They're very near and dear to all of us, Michael. And, they brought the package of Levon's highlights. And again, you want to get your next motivation going, come join us on a Tuesday night for trivia. Okay. We will talk some smack with you for bar trivia for dummies at Hall of Fame Sports Grill on Tuesday nights. They got bingo on Wednesday and Thursday, karaoke on Friday, and then football the rest of the weekend. And check out their tailgate in the parking lot. Find out all the information at HallOfFameSportsGrill.com. And then finally, Remax Clemson, our buddy Russ Abair. You can give him a call, 864-654-4345. Let Russ find the right fit for you. Like Remax likes to say, outstanding agents, outstanding results, just like outstanding guests here on CSN Live from Lakeside Lodge. Joe Bostic, I'm just so excited about what the next 12, 13, 14 weeks are going to bring for us. But Levon, I'm glad you found your passion with the South Carolina Football Hall of Fame as well.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Let's give Levon a hand, another hand for being with us. One of the all-time absolute greats.
Let's continue our second tradition, or our tradition for the second week, and give our guests something. Joe, you found this. They were getting ready to scrap this.
Throw it away.
They were going to throw this away. And Joe was over there and said, no, let us get these to some of the players. Man. So this was Levon's induction into the Clemson Football Hall of Fame, and we managed to get it back to him.
He's still a sharp-looking dude. He was a sharp-looking dude back then.
I tell you what, I was a stud muffin back then. That's like 10% body fat back then.
Well, again, some of us.
This is a bad dude here.
But again, thanks to Cliff and everybody over here helping us get out and online, and we will repackage this up on Monday as well. But great questions from the audience, and thank you guys for letting us be here. And guess what? We'll see you next Friday night for CSN Live at Lakeside Lodge.
All right.